Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Trejo and I will be doing a presentation on behavioral psychology and substance use disorder, addiction mechanisms in the brain. So this slide is about substance use disorder. Substance use disorders or SUDs are chronic and relapsing psychological conditions characterized by compulsive substance seeking and use despite harmful consequences. So the impacts on brain reward is motivation and memory systems. They disrupt key regions, again involving reward, motivation, and learning, intertwining biological vulnerability with learned behavioral reinforcement. It involves both behavioral and biological components. And according to the American Psychiatric Association, substance use disorders affect millions globally, posing major mental health and social changes. So this slide is about behavioral psychology foundations, and in this slide I have rooted in learning theory, which is classical and operant conditioning, drug use, which is learned behavior reinforced by pleasure or reward, and behavioral perspective explains craving, relapse, and habit formation. Overall, behavioral psychology explains addiction as a learned pattern of behavior maintained by reinforcement. Initially, drug use is positively reinforced by pleasurable effects like dopamine release, euphoria, or relief from stress. Over time, however, negative reinforcement dominates. So users continue to avoid withdrawal or emotional discomfort, and environmental cues like a specific place or a group of friends become conditioned stimuli, triggering cravings through associative learning. And these behavioral principles, conditioning, reinforcement, and habituation, help explain why addiction persists even when individuals consciously wish to stop. This slide is about neurobiology of addiction. And in this slide, what I have is addiction equals neuroadaptation in mesolimbic dopamine system. And key structures is the ventral tegmental area, the nucleus accumbens, and the prefrontal cortex. And dopamine reinforces reward-seeking behavior, chronic use, tolerance, withdrawal, and impaired decision-making. So from a neurobiological perspective, addiction hijacks the brain's reward circuitry, and primarily the mesolimbic dopamine pathway, which involving the ventral tegmental area, the nucleus accumbens, and the prefrontal cortex. When a person uses a drug, dopamine floods the nucleus accumbens, reinforcing the behavior and signaling that the experience is rewarding. And over time, repeated use alters the baseline dopamine levels, causing tolerance and reduced sensitivity to natural rewards. And as the prefrontal cortex becomes compromised, impulse control and judgment decline depending on the cycle of the addiction. This slide is about mechanisms of learning and reward. And on the slide I have reward prediction error, which dopamine spikes when reward exceeds expectation. And habit formation is the dorsal striatum activation, so automatic use. And cue reactivity triggers conditioned cravings. And addictive behavior, maladaptive learning formation. So overall, addiction can be understood as a form of maladaptive learning. The concept of reward prediction error explains how unexpected drug rewards strengthen learning through dopamine surges. So over time, repeated substance use shifts control from voluntary behavior in the ventral striatum to habitual behavior in the dorsal striatum, making use more automatic. And cues associated with drug use, sights, smells, or emotional states activate this, causing cravings even after long abstinence. In essence, the brain learns to overvalue drug rewards and undervalue healthy alternatives. Now, this slide is about psychological and environmental factors. So, one, genetic predispositions, environmental triggers, and two, stress, trauma, and social modeling contribute. Three, co-occurring mental health disorders increase vulnerability. And four, behavioral models integrate biology plus environment. So while neurobiology is critical, addiction also reflects psychological and environmental interaction. Factors such as, again, stress, trauma, family modeling, and social learning contribute to both initiation and maintenance of use. So research shows that genetic vulnerability interacts with early life adversity, amplifying risk. And behavioral psychology integrates these elements by viewing addiction as a complex learned response within a biological system, not merely a matter of willpower. So this slide is about treatment and behavioral interventions. So on the slide, I have cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which identifies triggers and reshapes thought patterns. And I also have contingency management, which reinforces abstinence with rewards, and motivational interviewing, which enhances readiness to change. And then combining behavioral and pharmacological approaches is most effective. So overall, behavioral interventions form the cornerstone of treatment. So cognitive behavioral therapy, just to explain a bit more, helps individuals identify and challenge thought patterns that sustain their use. And contingency management provides immediate reinforcement for abstinence. So for example, giving vouchers or having their extra privileges. And then motivational interviewing focuses on ambivalence and encourages intrinsic motivation for change. And combined with the pharmacological like therapy, like methadone and buprenorphine, these behavioral approaches significantly improve their recovery outcomes. So this slide is about brain recovery and neuroplasticity, which on the slide I have recovery involves rewiring reward pathways, abstinence, gradual dopamine normalization, and neuroplasticity supports behavioral change, and early intervention is crucial for long-term recovery. So the encouraging news is that the brain can heal with substance abstinence, with sustained abstinence and behavioral therapy, dopamine function gradually normalizes, and new neural connections form through neuroplasticity. So the longer a person maintains sobriety, the more resilient their reward circuitry becomes. So this underscores the importance of early intervention and consistent behavioral reinforcement in promoting lasting recovery, which is very important. To conclude, on the slide I have addiction equals interaction of behavioral learning and neurobiology. Reinforcement cues and habit formation sustain use, and neuroplasticity enables recovery through behavioral change, and integrative treatment equals most effective. So overall, substance use disorders reflect a dynamic interaction between learned behavior and brain adaptation. Addiction is both psychological and neurological, rooted in reinforcement mechanisms that can fortunately be reshaped through behavioral therapy and neuroplasticity. So understanding these mechanisms enables more effective prevention, treatment, and recovery support. And that is it. Thank you very much. And lastly, these are my references.